Hi everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on wherever you're joining from. Thanks a lot for taking out time for this webinar. Today we are going to talk about how advertising technology companies stand to gain from Sigmoid's self-serve analytics platform. I'm Sankalan, your host for today. I've been with Sigmoid for over 2 years now, and I've transitioned through different roles across and responsibilities. And I'm currently heading the product marketing function for Sigmoid. Before we begin, a few housekeeping rules for the webinar. The webinar is being recorded. The slides and the recording will be sent out to all participants after the webinar is completed. Your lines are muted. Please type out the questions through the Q&A option at the top of the screen. We'll take up questions at the end of the webinar. We have reserved some time for the same. The panelists for today are William Ledger, who is the chairman and CEO of MRP Advisors, and Deepa Dubashi, who heads product for us. A short introduction to our panelists before we begin. Bill is a global C-level digital media and marketing services executive with extensive consulting, founding, building, and turnaround expertise in both entrepreneurial and established companies in programmatic trading, advanced TV, online and mobile video, internet and e-commerce, advertising and marketing, and information services. Bill has served as a divisional CEO and C-level executive with Kantar Media, WPP, TNS, and Getty Images. He was also founder and CEO of a programmatic media trader company, Media Crossing, and art and framing e-tailer, art.com. He was also the former board member for public and private companies, including WPP Digital, Kantar Digital, and Rewards Network, and other non-profit organizations. Besides being a practitioner and industry veteran, Bill also serves as adjunct professor at New York School Graduate Program in Media Management. He is the creator of its very popular course on programmatic media and marketing, and also the co-author of several books on this subject. The second panelist for today is Deepa Dubashi. Deepa heads product management at Sigmoid. He has been one of the founding members with us and has been actively involved in defining the product roadmap. He has previously a co-founder of a luxury and fashion e-commerce venture in India. He has also worked with ZS Associates, where he was helping Fortune 500 pharma companies with their analytics requirements. He has also advised several startups and Fortune 500 companies on how to architect and implement their next generation big data solutions to drive better business outcomes. Deepa has also authored several books and courses on big data technologies. In terms of the agenda for today, we will first introduce Sigmoid and our product SigView to set the context for everybody on the call. Then we'll pass the floor to Bill to introduce us to MRP, some core challenges around the Datalytx project, considerations for evaluating Sigmoid, and how they're using SigView. Finally, we'll leave some time for any questions from the audience. Over to you, Deepa.
Thanks a lot, Sankalan. So like you mentioned, let me just begin by giving you a quick overview of Sigmoid and our product SigView. Sigmoid was founded in mid-2013 with an aim to revolutionize the business intelligence and analytics space by providing unified tools for historical and real-time analysis. So the two major problems that we saw at the time were the inability of traditional technologies to keep up with the explosive escalation of data volumes, and B was the sheer complexity involved in setting up even the most basic analytics stacks. We were soon backed by Sequoia Capital, Qualcomm Ventures, and a few other private angel investors who believed in this vision. And from there on, we've only gone from strength to strength, building a team of more than 50 people based out of our offices in SF and Bangalore in India. In the last 2 years, we have focused our attention on the ad tech space, providing customers such as MRP Advisors, for example, with a reliable and powerful decision support system to help them drive better business outcomes. Regarding the platform, our customers have found multiple ways to extract value from the platform, be it by using the timely insights generated to improve their product offerings, by harnessing its real-time capabilities to plug losses instantly, or by leveraging our APIs to build superior data products for their clients in turn. To expand upon this in a bit more detail, at the core of our offering lies NitroDB, which is a modern custom-built data warehouse, 10 to 100x more performant than other commonly used open source technologies in the market out there. It is designed to enable development of pluggable components, both on the ingestion side as well as on the consumption side, And the robust APIs that it exposes allows the development of sophisticated data products. So specifically in the ad tech industry, we have demonstrated its power by building one such full stack data product called SigView for tackling the multitude of use cases across the entire spectrum, ranging from agencies to publishers. It comprises an automated configurable ETL module, the NitroDB layer itself, and a cognitive business intelligence and reporting layer. It is designed to enable campaign managers, ad ops teams, BD teams, engineering teams, and others discover anomalous trends in their key KPIs, drill down by different dimensions or attributes of the data to identify what is causing those anomalies, and then set automated alerts and reports to track it subsequently till its eventual resolution. So the key value proposition that SigView provides is to get you up and running with a thought through, highly customizable analytics implementation instantly without having to spend time dealing with lengthy and expensive internal or external setups with uncertain ROIs. On the screen, you would see some of the use cases that we've tackled in the ad tech industry, specifically geared towards campaign management, that Bill will probably talk about in a whole lot more detail. So over to you again, Sankala.
Thanks, Deepa, for helping us set the context. Next, I'll welcome Bill to talk about MRP and his experience with SigView.
Great. Thank you very much. We at MRP feel very fortunate to have found Sigmoid and to be working closely with them. We have been able to collaborate on what has been a very effective productization of the capabilities that you've just heard about. As far as MRP Advisors is concerned, we are a consulting business that is essentially morphed into managed services, and we have always been about media trading. For many years now, the consultants at MRP have worked both independently and together to solve problems for publishers, for marketers, and for agencies. We'll also have worked in working with enablers, ad tech companies, helping to solve various problems in the industry. The space that we work in, we call media and marketing resource planning. This is the crossover between programmatic and a good deal of different kinds of data science related work. The activity with Sigmoid to date has been in creating something that we could use for our own purposes within our own trading and data science work, and also to make available to our clients. Our own business is operated both in India and in the United States. And we essentially have these three lines of business: consulting, managed services, where we are an outsourced partner for publishers, for marketers, and for agencies. And we do principle-based market making, where we will buy inventory from publishers and resell it. So we have these three lines of business. The work that we've done in these areas have led us to a need for the capabilities that you've heard about, and we're going to go into some detail on. We call the overall activity that involves this platform our managed services platform. So to be clear, it's the idea of combining technology along with the labor that supports it. And we do this principally in India, guided by account management in the US. Next slide. The managed services platform that we have developed is a mixture of different capabilities. For us, this includes running a DMP. Specifically, we use the Salesforce DMP, where we have created a capability that allows others to be able to work on within our instance, but in an area segregated for their own use, and where we manage it for them. We also operate a Meta DSP and Meta SSP on behalf of buyers and sellers, where we're running a full function trading desk. And finally, we do a considerable amount of data science related work doing things like building audience segments, custom audience segments, building different kinds of modeling that we deploy on behalf of clients. We have put together a series of capabilities based on Sigmoid that we call MRP Datalytx. The fundamental technology that sits at the heart of Datalytx is the Sigmoid offering that you've just heard about, and which we're going to explore in greater detail. It is supported, in our case, principally in India, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And it has been up and running now for several months. We spent 6 months building it out. It's fully operational now on behalf of clients. Their overall trading operation that we've got has now been fully set up and executing for over a year. The process that you're going to hear about that we went through to create this took place over a period of less than 9 months and more than 6 months in total. Next slide. So the overall challenge for us was to find a partner that would be able to give us the technology that we could then craft to our particular needs. We were going to need something that would be dynamic and real-time in nature. It couldn't be batched, and it would need to work with very large amounts of data. For us, very large amounts right now means hundreds of millions of impressions on a monthly basis, growing to billions of impressions, and where there wouldn't necessarily be a great deal of predictability about how, for any of our individual clients, traffic might spike. So we needed a significant amount of flexibility, and we needed potentially great scale, which has turned out to be the case as some of our clients have grown quite considerably. We also need to be able to accommodate many disparate sources of data. These are both supply partners on the inventory side as well as data partners, and separate analytic instances that we run for specific purposes. In total, we have over 20 different data sources that we need to join together on a continuous basis. And one of the challenges that anyone listening to this would be familiar with is all the different logins and passwords that exist for all the different kinds of data sources that you might have. There's really no one human being that could handle all of the different inputs, and to be able to take those inputs and make sense of them, to be able to do real-time decisioning or even near real-time decisioning. So for us, part of the purpose of Datalytx is to create this unified combination of business intelligence, visualization, and reporting. It allows us to be able to have a view really sliced any which way, whether looking at it from a buyer's standpoint or a seller's perspective, understanding exactly what's going on at the individual campaign level, whether this is a publisher or a marketer, or it's an agency working with multiple clients. We've needed something that's going to be cloud-based and that can accommodate the full range of likely asks on the part of our clients. That means that not only do we need a login and a password, but we need to be able to export, to be able to have alerts, to be able to build more sophisticated models off of the different kinds of data that we're collecting. And we'll need flexibility about visualization. If we put 10 clients in a room, there's a 100% chance that those 10 clients will come up with different ideas about how they want things presented to them, and what kind of reporting cadence that they're seeking. So we needed the ability to be able to do real-time, near real-time, daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, and to be able to mix different kinds of data, particularly mixing financial information with operational information. So all of these are needs that we are looking for from the platform that we would wind up working with. I've had the benefit of having built something similar to Datalytx previously, but without the benefit of a third-party application provider in a SaaS environment. Instead, it's something that where my team had to build it from scratch, and I was not looking to do that again. If it was possible to find a partner and to modify what already exists, that's really what we were looking for within a SaaS solution. Next slide. So the particular offer that we need to make when we selected Sigmoid was to be able to offer Datalytx sliced for publishers, for advertisers, market making, that means our own internal trading activity, understanding the profitability of our own trading. We needed the ability to be able to slice and dice many different ways that would allow us to be able to share this information with different stakeholders within the clients and within the departments that make up MRP. And in our case, we operate not only in the US and India, but we have clients on 3 continents. So the opportunity to be sort of available on demand and where there was a high degree of reliability to the platform. Last thing that I would mention, which is certainly not the least important, but we needed to be able to afford this. The idea that you can do all these things is wonderful, but if you can't afford them, if the cost to deliver them is so great that it offsets the effectiveness of how you can operate as a business, that's really not going to be helpful. So I'm pleased to say that Sigmoid has turned out to be a very a cost-effective solution for us, and more so than if we had built it ourselves, and better than other alternatives, which I'd be pleased to talk about. Next slide. So the spaghetti diagram that you see in front of you is the current actual depiction of the managed services platform, which MRP has built and operates 24 hours a day on behalf of our clients. This is the totality of the various inputs that we're talking about and the outputs. Some of this are outputs that are indirect in nature that feed our accounting systems. Most of these are direct, and you can see the ones that are direct that are sitting within the bluish box that makes up most of this diagram. In the middle of this diagram, you see something marked business intelligence, analysis, reporting, database, and Sigmoid. This is the core, the heart of all of the activity that's going on around. It is being fed by an internal ETL tool that we've developed, an external ETL tool. Most of the data is coming from an S3 bucket within AWS, where we've got APIs that are feeding data into that bucket, and from that bucket, we're pushing into SigView, and then we have outputs coming from it. Some of these are direct outputs in terms of visualization and reporting. In other cases, we're pushing into other sandbox environments. But what you see in front of you in this slide is the totality of the solution that we built and that we operate. Importantly, if the question is, well, can this really service clients, or is this just purely an internal instance? The answer for our case is we have to do both. We have an internal P&L related to our own trading activity called Media Trader, and then we have a very active business in MRP's managed services platform where we need to be able to make this available and support it 24 hours a day on behalf of publishers, advertisers, and agencies. This isn't a theoretical exercise. This is our actual business, what we run every day. Next slide. So we think that we've got a success here. It's a bit early, but we're up and running. We have delivered on time, on budget. Very pleased with how things have developed, despite the fact that the early going was a little bit rough, not because of Sigmoid. It's entirely because of us at MRP. We're a young company, and when we first started together with Sigmoid, we knew that we were interested in dashboards and scorecards and flexible reporting, but we didn't entirely know what the totality of the requirements were going to be. And so in all candor, when we started, Sigmoid was very helpful and flexible with us as we basically grew to define our requirements over the course of the first few months working together. So when we first started, we knew a very narrow definition of what we were after. And of course, the longer we're in business, the more we learn about what our requirements are. So one of the things I wanted to share with you is that while Sigmoid has offerings that are right out of the box, they were more than willing to make adjustments and to create some things that we did not have that we grew to need. In the beginning, that included the handling of disparate data that wasn't identified early on, and additional visualization requirements that weren't identified until later. But those have all been baked in and developed over a period of time of roughly 6 months or so. So one of the suggestions I would make for anybody that's attempting to build these kinds of dashboarding systems is try to the best of your ability to identify the nature of the requirements, think ahead, and recognize that as you add more stakeholders, you're going to need things beyond what you originally scoped. Things will likely take longer and cost more. I'm pleased to say that has not been the case with regard to Sigmoid. Things have cost about what we had budgeted in the time frame that we were after, but that's, in all candor, that's because they have been flexible with us, and we very much appreciate that. The data integration has been complex. In the ad tech space, there are many different APIs. There are few standards. There's a significant amount of coding that's necessary at the individual line item level when we're looking at campaign activity. There's a significant amount of pre-processing of data that needs to go on, especially if you're combining audience data with transactional data. When you've got both buy-side and sell-side, you have a variety of exchanges, ad servers, video platforms, all the different elements. As you throw it in, there's a considerable amount of things that can go wrong and that can change each week. So it's important to say that in laying out the process of how we got to the platform that we have, there's definitely been a learning curve, and there are changes that go on a weekly and monthly basis where we have the more disparate sources of data we have, the more unanticipated changes that develop and have unforeseen consequences. It's important to say that not all of this can be done in an automated fashion. There are definitely analysts involved. In our case, we have overnight analysts that essentially are interfacing with the platform each day, and we have a developer on staff that's continuing to build additional functionality. But we do have a working platform, and Sigmoid has been quite stable throughout the process. Next slide. If we sort of go up 1,000 feet and look at the major components that exist that are powering Datalytx, we can identify that there are 4 distinct components. The first of these is TEMS. TEMS is an internal code. It is not an industry term of art. TEMS refers to the proprietary coding that we've developed for establishing how we code line items that exist at the campaign level in trading activity. We've had to create our own taxonomy looking across many different vendors and different circumstances in order to be able to automate the processing of line items. So that pre-processing, which is proprietary to MRP, has been a significant help to us, and it's something that we continue to invest in. Depending upon how complex your organization is, you may well need something like that, or you could leverage what we've done. But pre-processing ahead of the ETL really reduces a considerable amount of discrepancies and subsequent labor-intensive problems. The ETL capability, this is one that we have developed in coordination with Sigmoid. It's really critically important in terms of how we're bringing the data together. It is not possible to do this completely off the shelf. There is customization required in the ad tech space for ETL. Lots of work there. The JSONs themselves, the importance of the JSONs, as you may know, is that they need to be really dynamic, fluid. We need to be able to change the extent of the impression or event level activity dramatically and typically without prior notice. We have, for example, a publisher that we've been working with quite successfully where they have extremely high traffic a few days before the end of the month and through the first 5 trading days of the month, and then their traffic drops considerably, and then it spikes up again. We have other clients that we work with, their campaign demands or their inventory monetization needs vary dramatically based on events, oftentimes which are not predictable in nature. And then the needs themselves, they change. Our client needs change, and even the nature of their businesses will change. So the JSON needs to be adaptable. All of this comes together with the Sigmoid SigView. This is the fundamental business intelligence environment that Sigmoid makes available to us. It allows us to be able to dimensionalize the data. I tell people that Datalytx for us is kind of like a Rubik's Cube. If you take a look at the way in which we can get to the data, you can continuously change the nature of the data that you're working with, the metrics, the way in which they're viewed, how you can drill down and across, with whom you can share it, the nature of how you set up the instances and the client rules. It's a very flexible format. Next slide. So as we've been discussing, TEMS is that coding system. This is a piece of advice for those of you who are interested in how these things come together. If you cannot figure out how to code the campaigns and the line items effectively on some kind of an automated basis, you will be left with so much labor intensity that as you scale, you are bound to have significant problems, which at the end of the day will wind up with being very substantial discrepancies in client reporting and in your accounting systems. You've got to be able to get to this early on, and you've got to be able to figure it out in a way where you're not throwing bodies at the problem. And I'm sharing this with you from years of experience. This ad operations can be a real challenge, and you really don't want a situation where you're wholly dependent on people that have this idiosyncratic knowledge that if they are not there or they're focused on other activities, that the wheels come off the wagon. So this is an area that has required significant preparatory work by us. And I know this is true for others as well, so I want to make sure that we don't skip past this. Next slide. As we've discussed, we have the ETL system. ETL is what takes the data from its various locations. We basically bring it into the S3 bucket at AWS, and we're going to wind up extracting it, putting it into our business intelligence environment that is Datalytx, powered by Sigmoid. The stability of our systems have been quite good. We've been pleased with AWS thus far, and the systems that Sigmoid has put together are quite robust. We're very appreciative of the fact that Sigmoid has sort of trained up on some very large clients ahead of us, not directly in what we do, but close enough so that they've had an opportunity to really test their systems, and as a result, we've had good rigor, and our uptimes have been phenomenal. The JSONs can get pretty complex, lots of different configurations. I suppose the good news for us is that we've been through a lot thus far, and the incremental investment is going to be fairly modest as we add additional integration partners. Next slide. So what is it that this wonderful dashboard looks like? And to be clear, we have dashboards and we have scorecards and we have individual reporting capability. For us, this publisher dashboard that you're seeing in front of you is available either to be pushed to the publisher client, or it's something where they can log in and gain access. We customize these, so there's a standard application that we've built for MRP, and then we'll customize it for individual publisher needs. But essentially, we have this available on either a daily, weekly, or monthly basis for the publishers. Each of these widgets, these sort of boxes that you see are widgets, each of them are available to be plugged in, to be moved around. You can drill down, you can drill across. You can choose to make the data available in tabular form, or in graphical form, and then there are multiple different graphs that are available. It's a very, very large number of permutations and combinations that are available. In our case, we've gone through a bit of a learning curve with regard to how people want things. We also have the ability to be able to drop in contextual help so that people that are newer to the graphics will be able to click on icons and understand within that specific context what is the definition of a metric, how does this apply to their business. They're able to export into Excel or push to a PDF to PowerPoint. They can combine in various ways. It can be as powerful or as limited as the power user defines. In this case, we find that our clients want access to the dashboards, but they prefer that we develop reports that we push to them. We'd like to think that the primary case is the login and the on-demand access. The reality for most of our clients is that they really would like summary and then detailed reporting sent to them at some regular cadence. So we go to the next slide. We're moving from the daily publisher dashboard to a weekly dashboard, but this can be done as frequently or infrequently as clients require. On a monthly basis, there's a great deal of detail that we make available for clients, and we link it all back to the accounting systems so that they have a very easy ability to reconcile. In the case of a publisher, how are they monetizing their inventory? What kind of audience extension or audience development is going on? We also link in our DMP so that we have the ability to be able to analyze things by audience. And this is available on a log level basis if that's something that the clients are looking for. Next slide. Overall, our experience with Sigmoid has been phenomenal. Not good, not average. It's been great. I'd love to say it's because of the technology, and Deepa, I'm going to give you all the credit in the world. The technology is great. You've done an excellent job on the product. But I wanted to let everyone know the secret of these things is the people more than the product. If we did not have great support from the top down at Sigmoid, we would not have been able to accomplish amazing things in such a short period of time. And we're very much appreciative of what the whole Sigmoid team has done pulling this together. And I'm very appreciative for the engineering team at MRP working with the Sigmoid team. So we're very pleased with our decision to go with Sigmoid. And I'm pleased to take what questions people may have.
Thanks, Bill. Thanks for those really kind words. I know the journey has had its ups and downs, but it was a great learning experience for us as well. We'll now take up questions. The first question we have is for you, Bill. So somebody wanted to know what other options did you consider while evaluating different platforms for your Datalytx project?
Sure. Well, I thought about leaving, going to another industry that wouldn't be so complicated, but but I decided against it. I could go to almost any other industry, and there would be broader based standards and considerably less individual permissioning involved. But ed tech and marketing tech is where we are. The other companies that we've looked at for different capabilities in and around Datalytx have been some of the traditional business intelligence software suppliers, sort of the much more traditional BI players. We've also talked to, for example, Tableau and those that have focused more on visualization. We looked at companies like Stack and MetaMarkets within the ed tech space. Companies like Domo and Datarama that are building BI tools where, to a greater or lesser extent, there's some verticalization going on. I would say I think that we did a pretty good job of churning the soil, looking at the different alternatives. We also looked at building this ourselves. Way too expensive to build it ourselves, both in terms of staffing and the sheer amount of time it would take and the ongoing support. So we ruled that out early on. We looked at less expensive, what we thought would be less expensive solutions, and determined that they simply were not going to be sufficiently powerful and flexible for us. We looked at large-scale BI vendors and determined it was going to be unaffordable, and we would need to staff with folks that were just going to be way too expensive for us to be able to sustain that headcount. I think the last thing is that it's important to recognize that in our case, our business is partially in India and partially in the US. We needed the ability to be able to be successful merging together different employees in different time zones coming from different kinds of education and experience, where we thought that we could be successful in a continuous way in a mixed environment with different kinds of employees with different skill sets. And we thought that Sigmoid really had got that well understood, that this is a company that's based both in the US and in India, just like us, and that there needed to be sufficient documentation and support to be able to service all levels of our company. So I feel very good that now in a greater state of delivery for Datalytx that we did make the right choice. And I'm certain that we would not have been able to deliver as quickly or as cost effectively if we had gone with any of those other solutions.
Thanks, Bill, for that. I think that sort of leads to the next question, somebody from the audience, to Deepa, I think. So what gaps did you see in the current analytics solutions to come up with a new platform?
Sure. So I think that's pretty similar to what Bill just mentioned and spoke about right now. I think our biggest, the problem and challenge that we saw is that all the current technologies seem to be more like Lego blocks. And the way they approached it was more from a technology perspective rather than solving the end business goal or the use case of the customer. So if you look at any analytical implementation, if you decide to even do it from scratch or look at any external vendor, you typically need to look at all these different technologies, each siloed within its own kind of sphere. Then take these Lego blocks together and try and cobble them together to build a final data and analytical product, which supposedly and theoretically would provide the insights needed to achieve those business objectives. So what we found is that these blocks don't tend to play well together. There are a lot of integration challenges. They are not customizable and flexible to meet the different scale, visualization, or even structural challenges like Bill just highlighted. And they are typically expensive experiments with uncertain ROIs at best. And those problems that we saw with the current analytical products and the current space in general led us to build this platform from scratch, particularly with the focus of using it, using that generical platform to build very specific industry targeted products and solving the end business goals and use cases of the customers first and foremost.
Thanks, Deepa. The last question for the day was for you, Bill. So how do you envision the Datalytx roadmap and like what's next for the product?
The timing of that question is exquisite. I'm wondering if that came from our product manager. We have an 18-month product roadmap that we have put together that's really extensive. Mm-hmm. One of the things that's nice about what Sigmoid has helped us to build is that we've got something that will work for, as those of you from India would know the phrase freshers. These are people that are right out of school, that are new joiners. We've got a platform here that can accommodate the needs and abilities of freshers, and we've got something that works well for our data scientists who have very substantial academic and quantitative backgrounds, who are native to being able to work with the data and to code themselves. For us, the product roadmap is really at both ends of the spectrum, trying to create more and better reports that will help people that are directly in the line of fire, who need access to the data easily and pre-digested in ways that where there is a fairly light data handling requirement for different stakeholders, both internally and externally. And then we have quite a bit to do in product development associated with supporting the demand side of the market. We started initially developing more on the publisher side, which has been fine, but we have much more to do on the demand side. And we have a considerable amount to do in data science. As an example, to give you an idea of how powerful this platform is, one of the things that we're working quite hard on is developing modeling around the expected value of ad impressions, so that whether you're a buyer or a seller, it essentially allows us to be able to link in machine learning capabilities and deep learning around what should the expected price be for a given ad impression, given the variety of factors that we may know about the audience and about the ad unit, the publisher, the different trading circumstances, where we're tying in exchange data, SSP and DSP data, lots of granular information. We want to be able to understand what should the right price be to buy or sell any given impression under different circumstances, and then to benchmark that against actual trading activity. So that would be an example of one of the things that's on our product roadmap. We've now done the initial Python workbook, and we're converting that into an algorithm that can better inform how we buy and sell. We get to do that because of the very good work that we have already put together in this. It doesn't mean that the work is done. It means that we're that much closer, much faster, being able to get to those insights and to deploy them, and to be able to share those with the different stakeholders that much faster. And I'm really looking forward to the pace with which we're going to innovate over the course of the next 18 months. And none of that would be possible if we didn't have this kind of foundational investment that we had put in place. So I thank you, Deepa and Sankalin. All of this is possible for us because of your support, and we really appreciate what Sigmoid has done for MRP.
It was completely our pleasure, Bill.
Thanks a lot, Bill, for your kind words, and looking forward to continuing to support you, just as we do.
If anyone who is hearing this presentation and seeing it would like an additional live reference with regard to Sigmoid, or they want to learn more about what we've done, feel free to contact me at any time. I believe that Sigmoid will make my email address available to you.
Sure, we'll do that. Thanks, Bill. With that, we'll wrap up the session for today. Thank you once again to all the attendees for taking out time from your busy schedule. Hopefully, the session was productive to all who joined us today. We'll mail out the slides and the recording within 24 hours of this webinar. Finally, thanks a lot, Bill, for your kind words once again. We are very appreciative of you taking out time for today's session. It is always wonderful to learn from your experience.
Thank you so much, guys.
Have a good day, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.